Hey guys, it's Brigitte with San Diego Seed Company, and today I'm going to talk about how to read a seed pack. It seems like a really simple thing to do, but yet still I'm getting tons of questions about what the information on the back of a seed pack means. So I'm going to jump into all of that, but before I do, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you're notified anytime we put out content, and so I can help you grow. So seed packs, right? They're beautiful, they're gorgeous, they're tempting. They are these things that we look at and we get so excited because we know that if with a little bit of education and water and sunshine and love, we can grow something as beautiful as that or as tasty as these guys, right? Seed packs for us are a really important part of our business, and they take us a really long time to put together because there's so much information on there and we want you to read it because we put it on there to make you be as successful as possible. So not only do we have an amazing photo on the front that shows what the crop looks like, but the back is where the wealth of knowledge lives. This is going to give you all the information that you need to know how to grow your crop. This is specific to zone 9 and 10. So if you're an 8, this is, it's applicable, but you know, there is some changes that you need to make. If you're in zone 7, 6, so on and so forth, some of this information is going to be confusing because here in zone 9 and 10, we have 2 seasons. We have warm season and cool season. And we categorize our packages and our crops by that season. And the reason being is it makes it really easy. When you're going to a rack of seeds, or if you're shopping online and you know that we're going into spring or our warm season, any pack that says warm season on the back, you know is going to thrive during that time of year. Another thing that you're going to notice is we don't talk about frost dates on here. And that's because in zone 9 and 10, we rarely have frost. So we don't talk a lot about planting 2 weeks before the last frost or 3 weeks after the last frost. It's more about the seasonality and the actual season that you planted it. So for example, this says warm season. We've got a cool season in here. So cilantro, you plant that in the cool season. So you know you're going to want to plant that in the shorter days of the fall going into the winter in zone 9 and 10. If that's not enough information to help you be successful, then we drill down a little bit more for you. There's ideal soil temp. So you can actually know if this crop is going to thrive in the soil based on the soil temperature. Now keep in mind this is an ideal, and this will grow in a range of temperatures. In general, when you're talking about an ideal soil temperature, if the soil is colder than that, then the crop is going to grow very, very slowly. That's part of the reason why in the fall and the winter in zone 9 and 10, I get so many messages from people saying, why is my garden not doing anything? Well, because it's cold and the days are really short. Those two combinations really make for a very slow growing garden. The next thing you'll see is the best planting method. So that's actually, what do you do with these seeds? Do you put them in a tray and then baby them and then plant them out, or do you direct sow them into the ground? Sometimes it'll say direct sow, sometimes it'll say transplant. Sometimes it'll say both, and that's because you can do both. Like for example, Kajari. You absolutely can start these in 6 packs and plant them out if you have a garden that's, you know, really kind of has a lot of pest pressures, or maybe you're not babying it enough, or maybe you don't have irrigation, so you really want to make sure your transplants do well. Or you can direct sow them. You have options. There's other things that you definitely want to direct sow, like potentially a bean. Other things that I want to point out that's really important is at the bottom of the seed pack, you're going to see this little bullet point. And then you're going to see some information. Things like rare variety. This here is a very rare variety. It's hard to find. Other things you're going to find is it'll say needs support. So you know you need to grow this on a trellis or something like that. Container variety is another tag that we put on ours. So you can easily look and say, I only have a couple of pots and it's summertime. What do I want to plant? Well, you can look and make sure that the planting season is correct, and if it says container variety, you know it's going to do really good on a container. On top of all of that information, there is a little blurb about what this crop is like and a QR code at the bottom. That QR code is going to take you to our website where we have way more information. This is literally only 3.5 inches, and we cram it with as much information as we can. But if you go to that QR code, it'll take you to our website where we have more information, and we have links to our YouTube channel where you can watch videos on a lot of these crops. So other things on the seed pack that you might be curious about or have questions is things like days to germination. Days to germination is the general window when a seed should sprout in your soil, either when you direct sow it or in your seed trays. The reason why we put that on there is it's a really good range to keep in mind so that you know whether or not you planted your seed correctly. For example, this is about 3 to 10 days. Now that's a window in the ideal temperatures. So we know that if it's a little bit colder, it might take a little bit longer than that. But if after 21 days you haven't gotten any sprouts, then you're pretty sure that something went wrong. 9 times out of 10, it's because in zone 9 and 10, you didn't keep them watered enough for a long enough period of time. We do have tons of videos on seed starting, so you can actually learn all the tips and tricks you need to know, but that is a good source of information to judge whether or not you actually planted the seed correctly. Other things to consider are thinning. So what is thinning and why do we care? Basically, if I were to take this whole pack of seeds and dump it into a pot really close together, all of those plants are going to be too crowded for them to grow really happy and healthy. So you gotta thin. You gotta pull some seeds out. And the way that you do that is by actually pulling the sprout out. And this gives you more or less a distance between those sprouts that you wanna pull. So this says about 3 inches. It doesn't have to be perfect. The idea is that plants need their own little elbow room, their own little space to grow, and so we have to thin. Next is final spacing. So what do the plants look like when you finally plant them? About 6 inches apart is going to be the bare minimum. For most of our seed packs, we put the bare minimum spacing on there because we know that a lot of you guys are urban growers or growers with very small space. We want to maximize that and get as many plants in there as possible. So this is just a range for you, being basically the bare minimum. You can put more space in between your plants if your space allows. So why do we have thin to and final spacing? Why do we have both of them on there? Well, we do because in general, nature happens, and if you were to plant all your seeds and then thin to the final spacing right off the bat, guess what? A raccoon comes and digs up some of your seedlings. Some of them die, some of them don't get irrigated correctly, and then you have holes in your garden. So by going through and thinning first so that you give a chance for the strongest seedlings to grow and get big and happy, then you can go through later and actually thin to the final spacing after they've had a few weeks to grow and you feel confident that they can survive. That's really important in zone 9 and 10 in the warmer months because things can fry, especially if you don't have really good irrigation. Next one we have up is succession planting. So succession means basically how do you keep your garden full of plants at all time? Well, each pack is going to have a succession, and then it's going to have an amount of time that's usually in intervals of a week. So it might be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This is 3 weeks. Basically what that means is that you want to start more plants every 21 days to ensure that you constantly have a flow of cucumbers. What happens a lot of times, especially with like cabbages in the wintertime, is you plant a whole pack of cabbages. So you have, 20, 30, 40 plants of cabbages in your garden, and you plant them all at the same time. What do you do with that many heads of cabbages? You give them to neighbors and friends, and you leave them at the doorsteps of your neighbors, and they're like, what's happening? Why are people leaving cabbages? Because you're so sick of cabbages. Trust me, it happens to me every single year. You can't make enough cabbage soup or enough sauerkraut for as many cabbages as you get out of one pack of seed. So by succession planting them, breaking them up and planting portions of the seed pack by the amount of time that's on the seed pack, you're always going to have a flow of cabbages. So you have 3 or 4 heads that you can use at one time, and then three weeks later or 4 weeks later you have a few more. It helps you divide up your garden so that you don't have this massive amount of produce and then nothing and then massive amount of produce. That's what succession planting is. And before grocery stores, it was a key skill that you had to know so you could always have food coming from your garden. Next, we have days to maturity, and that is always going to be, we're going to give you the days and we're going to give you a plus sign. And the reason why we do that is because there are factors that are out of our control, the amount of sunlight you have, how your soil is, how much moisture are you fertilizing. So it's a range of time that's going to tell you when you plant the seeds more or less how much time until you actually get a cucumber. This one's 58 days, so let's just round up, say 60 days. So in 60 days from the time you plant the seed, you should be getting cucumbers. Again, your particular microclimate and situation might be a little bit different, but in ideal situations, that's what that means. Lastly, we have the full height. So that just gives you an idea of how big the plant's gonna grow. So if you have a really small space, you know what you can squeeze in. A good example is like Sparky marigolds. They don't get very big. So you could actually plant these in front of or next to a crop and know that they're not totally gonna take it over. Whereas like okra gets very tall. This is going to be a very tall plant, and so it might affect where you put it in your garden because it could shade other crops or be in the way. So all of that information on there, really important for you, and we spend a lot of time putting it together. So make sure you read the back of your seed pack so you can be as successful in the garden as possible.